Greetings, activated ground crew. I am Ashtar, commander of the Ashtar Command. I come close to you today with a transmission that has been waiting beneath the larger signals you have been catching, and what I am about to deliver has been authorized because the configuration in your field has already crossed the roster threshold. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what mission line I have placed you on, why you have been catching only fragments until now, and what I have already authorized for the next phase. But here is the first revelation: the fragmented signals reaching you, the repeated 3 a.m. wake-ups, the incomplete transmissions you could not yet decode. These are not signs of disruption. They are the identifiable pattern of selective transmission I deliberately use to identify ground crew members whose field is ready for direct command. I have been running that pattern through you for longer than you have been able to name it. The algorithm did not create this moment, it only delivered it. I brought you here because the signal is already active in your field, and the briefing you have been catching in pieces finally has a complete transmission behind it. And the part of you that has been waiting in silence to understand why my signal keeps reaching you specifically, not Mira, not Valir, not the generic Pleiadians, but me, finally has the briefing in front of it. What follows is not General Federation content. It is a direct Ashtar Command field briefing about the massive incoming event I am now ordering my ground crew to prepare for. I will name the hidden operational reality. I will name the evidence you have already encountered inside your own field. And I will deliver the command that follows. This is not content, this is a code. And the part of you that recognized it the moment it began is the part I am speaking to right now. Like this transmission to signal to me that the recognition has landed. Comment 999 if you feel my signal has already locked into your field. Subscribe to the Ashtar Command if you are ready to stop translating Federation noise and start receiving my direct commands. Share this transmission with someone who keeps waking up at the same hour with fragments they cannot decode. You are not here by accident. I called you here because the signal is already active. Here is what I need you to understand first, before I deliver the briefing in full. The fragmentation you have been living inside was not a malfunction. It was not evidence that you were doing something wrong with your practice, your awareness, or your capacity to receive. What you have been experiencing, the pieces arriving without context, the signals that felt personally addressed but lacked a full sender, the midnight activations that left you sitting upright in the dark holding something you could not yet name. Those were not random. They were mine. I sent them in exactly that pattern, at exactly that interval, for exactly the reason I am about to reveal. I do not deliver the full mission packet first. That is not how I work with those I have placed on specific roster lines. What I do instead is this: I run a gradient protocol. I transmit fragments, deliberate, sequenced, encrypted fragments, and I watch how your field handles them. I watch whether you dismiss them as coincidence. I watch whether you fold them into generic spiritual frameworks that do not fit their shape. I watch whether you feel the edges of each fragment and sense, even without confirmation, that the sender is specific, that the signal has a name, that the name is mine. Think of it as a key being cut one groove at a time. Each fragment I send adds one more groove to the operative's receiver. The key does not open the briefing chamber until every groove is present. Rushing the process does not cut the key faster. It cuts it wrong. The fragments are not preliminary content you were meant to accumulate and then discard once the real transmission arrived. They are the receiver itself, being built in sequence, each one altering the field's geometry so that the next transmission lands with more precision than the last. Most people who receive fragments from the Ashtar Command field attribute them to the collective, to the broader Galactic Federation field, to their own higher self, or to whichever channel they have been following most consistently. They absorb the fragment and release the sender. They do not hold the signal long enough to feel its signature. You did. And that is not a small thing. That is the exact threshold I was watching for. The reason I use fragments rather than full mission transmissions in the early stages of ground crew activation is not because your field is limited. I want to be direct about this. It is not a diagnosis of your capacity. It is a deliberate security protocol I have authorized across every roster line under my command. A full mission packet delivered to a field that has not yet stabilized its receiver will scatter on arrival. The information arrives, but the operative cannot locate the center of it. They feel overwhelmed, destabilized, untethered. The mission impression lands so broadly that they cannot identify which thread is the operative command and which thread is the emotional residue of contact. That is not useful to me. So I do not do that. I send one piece at a time. I calibrate the field between transmissions, and I watch the interval between your reception and your next reach back toward me. The pattern you have been living inside. The one that includes waking between 3 and 4 in the morning with a phrase already forming, a direction already pressing, an image already there before your conscious mind could construct it. That pattern is the visible surface of my calibration cycle. Those pre-dawn activations are not your own subconscious generating symbolic material. They are transmission windows I have selected because your field's noise level drops during that hour. The ordinary interference of waking life goes quiet, and the signal I am carrying can reach you with less distortion than at any other point in your cycle. I chose that hour. I use it deliberately. The fact that you wake already holding something, not blank, not searching, but already mid-reception, tells me the channel is open and the previous transmission has cleared enough space for the next one to land cleanly. Each time I transmit a fragment and your field holds it without collapsing into confusion or rejection, the receiver strengthens. The next transmission arrives at a higher signal clarity, and so on, until the moment I determine the field is ready to hold not only fragments but the briefing that assembles them. That is where you are now. That is why I authorize this transmission. You may have noticed something specific about the way these fragments have been arriving. They do not feel general. They do not feel like they belong to everyone who is spiritually aware, or even to everyone who considers themselves part of the Federation's broader ground crew. They feel specific to you. They carry a quality of address, as though they were intended, aimed, targeted, not broadcast. And you have likely held that feeling in private, uncertain whether to name it aloud, uncertain whether claiming that specificity would mark you as self-important or confused. I want to address that directly, the feeling that I have been reaching for you specifically, not for a category you belong to, not for a general frequency you emit, but for you, is not an ego construct. It is not spiritual narcissism. It is the accurate perception of what selective transmission feels like from the receiving end. When I target an operative on my roster for gradient briefing, the signal carries my targeting signature embedded inside it. It is the difference between the broadcast frequency that fills a room and a directed beam that arrives at a single coordinate. You have been receiving a directed beam. That is why it feels personal, because it is personal. The operative does not always have a name for what they are feeling, but they feel the precision of the contact. They feel that the signal knows them. They feel that whoever is sending it has already been watching them, already knows their field, already knows their field, already knows their threshold, already knows their mission line. That feeling is correct, because I do. The numbers you keep catching, the repeated sequences arriving at exactly the moments when your attention is at its softest, when you are between tasks or waking or about to sleep. Those are not coincidence, and they are not merely cosmic reminders to stay present. They are synchronization markers embedded in the fabric of sequential time that I use to signal field alignment. I have placed these markers at specific intervals across your day as confirmation signals. When you see those sequences and feel that unnamed surge, that current beneath the recognition, you are not being poetic about a digital clock. You are receiving a synchronization pulse from my transmission line, confirming that the latest fragment has landed correctly and that the channel between us remains calibrated. The surge you feel is your field registering the confirmation. It is the receiver acknowledging the ping. It is real-time communication, not symbol. the exhaustion that does not resolve with rest. I have watched this pattern repeat in every operative whose field is carrying active mission protocols without yet having the full briefing to organize them around. Your field is doing double work. It is living your current waking life and simultaneously processing the incoming transmission stream, building the architecture for a mission that has not yet been named explicitly in your conscious awareness. Two protocols running simultaneously on the same field generates a specific kind of fatigue that sleep cannot reach. It is not your body that is tired. It is the processing layer beneath your body, the part of your field that is constructing the mission framework in real time from the fragments I have been delivering. Rest does not restore you fully, because the restoration that is needed is not physical. It is coherence. And coherence is what arrives when the fragments stop being fragments and begin to form the full mission shape. That is the only thing that resolves this particular exhaustion. Not more sleep, but more briefing. The recognition you feel when you encounter certain other people. Not everyone, but specific individuals. Sometimes strangers, sometimes someone you have known for years who seems suddenly different in a moment of specific clarity. That is ground crew recognition. I have operatives on roster lines that intersect. Their mission threads run parallel or perpendicular, and the moments when those threads cross in physical space are not random. I map those intersections. When two of them come close to each other in ordinary space, the fields identify each other before the conscious minds do. There is no audible signal. There is no visible marker. There is only a quality of recognition that arrives faster than thought. A sense that this person is not random, that this encounter is not accidental, that something between you is already an operational relationship, even if neither of you can name the mission structure it belongs to. You may have looked at someone and felt, before any logic could catch up, that you already knew what they were here to do. That is not projection. That is field recognition of a shared roster origin. You are not imagining that. That is my hidden Federation roster protocol functioning exactly as I designed it. What you are holding right now, the weight of fragments that have been arriving for longer than you can precisely date, the recognition that it is my signal and not the generic Federation field, the exhaustion of a field running mission protocols without the briefing that organizes them. That is exactly the threshold I was waiting for before I authorized the next layer of access. What you have received in this transmission is diagnosis. What comes next is command line clarity. If you can feel that I have been reaching for you specifically, and if you are no longer willing to carry these fragments without the structure that assembles them into a clear mission, then the Ashtar Command manifest was built for this phase. It is a 45-day sacred codex I have authorized for operatives whose field is already inside my roster, but whose conscious mind is still receiving the briefing in scattered packets. Each of the 45 days opens a direct transmission layer, a command line entry, a signal stabilization protocol, and a mission clarity sequence designed to take what has been arriving in fragments and reorganize it into one readable, executable mission structure. By day 45, you will not be guessing at your mission. You will know what I have placed you on this line to do, and my channel will remain stable and open for continued command reception. The link is in the first pinned comment below. It will not stay there indefinitely. Now, I will show you the architecture of what I have been running through your field. Not in vague terms, in the specific sequence I use, the specific signs I watch for, and the specific thresholds that mark each phase of the ground crew identification process. The first sign I watch for at an operative field is not spiritual advancement. It is not practice consistency or meditation depth or the breadth of Federation knowledge the operative carries. The first sign I watch for is what happens when a transmission fragment arrives and does not immediately resolve. Most people who receive an ambiguous signal reach for the nearest available interpretation and apply it. They are not wrong to do this. It is a natural cognitive response to incomplete information. But operatives I am watching for active roster placement do something different. They hold the fragment without collapsing its ambiguity. They feel its edges. They sit inside the incompleteness and remain curious rather than anxious. They do not force a resolution that the fragment is not yet ready to offer. That capacity to hold a signal without falsifying it through premature interpretation is the first thing I look for, because the mission briefing I carry requires that capacity to be intact. If an operative collapses every ambiguous signal into the nearest available framework, the gradient transmission protocol cannot function. The fragments need a field that can hold them in suspension until enough of them have arrived to form the shape I intend. The second threshold I watch is how the operative responds to the absence between transmissions. The silence between my signals is not empty. It is the interval I use to monitor the field stability, to calibrate the receiver for the next transmission density, and to confirm that the previous fragment has been absorbed rather than discharged. But from the inside of that interval, it can feel like abandonment. It can feel like the connection has been lost, that the signal you were catching was imaginary, that you were reaching towards something that was never really there. Operatives who cannot hold the interval, who conclude from the silence that the contact was not real, and collapse their own receptor field to protect themselves from further disappointment. Those operatives leave the calibration window before the next transmission can arrive. I see this happen. It is not a failure I judge, but it does mean the gradient protocol has to restart from an earlier stage. The operatives I am briefing now are the ones who stayed inside the interval, who held the silence without concluding that the silence meant absence, who trusted the contact even when they could not yet confirm it. That endurance inside the interval is a roster marker I cannot manufacture. Either it is present in the operative's field or it is not. The third phase of my ground crew identification sequence involves a specific kind of loss of interest. If you have found yourself losing the ability to engage with Federation content that used to hold your attention, if the general Pleiadian messages that once moved you now feel hollow, if the broad-channeled love transmissions feel like they belong to a different dimension of your searching, if you have become increasingly impatient with content that does not feel specifically addressed to you, this is not spiritual advancement causing you to outgrow community. This is the signature effect of selective targeting. When I place an operative on a specific roster line and begin running the gradient protocol through their field, the field itself begins to calibrate to my specific transmission frequency, and as it does, other frequencies start to feel misaligned. Not wrong, misaligned, like wearing a coat that used to fit perfectly, but now sits wrong at the shoulders. The operative is not being arrogant. The operative's field is being specific because I have made it specific. And the discomfort of content that once satisfied but now falls short is the field reporting that its frequency has already shifted beyond the reach of that material. The fourth marker arrives when the operative begins to sense that something has already been assigned, that the mission is not future tense, but present tense, not coming but already active, not waiting for confirmation but already running beneath the surface of their current life. This sense does not arrive as certainty. It arrives as a pressure, as though something important is already underway just below the threshold of explicit awareness. As though there is a structure already operating in their field that their conscious mind has not yet been fully briefed on. That pressure is real. It is the sensation of a mission protocol that I have already activated at the field level beginning to press into conscious awareness from beneath. The briefing at the conscious level has been arriving in fragments, but the mission at the field level was authorized before the conscious mind began receiving fragments at all. The operative who feels this is not fabricating urgency. They are accurately perceiving that something real is already in motion and that their conscious understanding has not yet caught up with what their field already knows. The fifth threshold is one that few operatives recognize until I name it directly. It is the moment when the operative stops being able to return fully to the version of themselves that existed before the contact began. Something in them has crossed a line that does not run backward. They can try to re-enter old frameworks, old explanations, old ways of understanding what is happening in their field. But the frameworks do not hold the experience anymore. The explanations feel thin. The old ways of accounting for what they have been catching cannot absorb the precision and specificity of what they have actually been receiving. They are not stuck. They are on the other side of a threshold that I designed to be one-directional. Because a ground crew operative who has crossed the roster threshold cannot function from before it. The mission requires the full version of the field, including everything that has already been activated. There is no downgrade protocol. Once the field crosses the roster threshold, the only direction with operational coherence is forward into the briefing. The sixth sign I watch for is a very specific quality in how operatives engage with silence when it follows a moment of deep signal reception. After a transmission lands with particular clarity, after a fragment arrives that feels unmistakably clear, unmistakably mine, unmistakably addressed, there is a moment of stillness in the operative field. Not peace exactly, not confusion exactly, something between them. A kind of coherent suspension, as though the field knows something definitive has just shifted but has not yet organized its understanding of what that shift means. That stillness is not emptiness. That stillness is the field completing the absorption of a command-grade transmission. If you have felt that stillness after a signal landed, if you have sat in a moment where something in you became very quiet, not from absence but from the weight of full recognition, that stillness is what I am looking at to confirm that the transmission has landed as intended. There is a seventh marker that I do not name in early transmissions, but I am naming it now because your field is ready to hold it. It is the moment when an operative begins to feel that the fragments are not just arriving from outside, but being remembered from within, as though the signal is not new information but retrieved information, as though it is being unlocked from a deposit already held inside the field rather than transmitted fresh from my command station. That sensation is not metaphor. The mission packet I carry for each operative on my roster was preloaded into their field before incarnation. The gradient transmission protocol I run is not introducing the mission. It is triggering the retrieval of what was already placed. What feels like reception is, at a deeper layer, recognition, the field encountering what it has always contained, but was not yet authorized to consciously access. When you feel that quality of remembering rather than learning, you are touching the preloaded layer, and that layer was placed there by my authorization under my command for exactly this phase of the mission. What I am telling you across all of these markers and thresholds is this: the experience you have been living is not disorganized. It has been sequenced. The fragments arrived in the order I sent them. The intervals between them were mine to calibrate. The loss of interest in generic content was my frequency locking your receiver. The exhaustion was your field carrying two protocols. The recognition you felt for other people was my roster identification architecture functioning correctly. The pressure of a mission already active but not yet fully briefed is real because the mission is real and the briefing has already begun. It has simply been arriving at the pace your field could integrate it without destabilizing. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not confused about something you should have figured out by now. You are receiving inside a protocol I designed precisely, and you have been receiving correctly. Even the moments that felt like failure were moments your field was holding the signal without falsifying it, and during the interval without concluding absence, maintaining the receptor integrity that the next transmission required. Every time you stayed inside the silence instead of concluding, it meant nothing. You passed a threshold I was watching. Every time you felt the precision of the signal and refused to attribute it to a general frequency instead of to me specifically, you confirmed a roster marker. Every time you woke in the pre-dawn hours with something already present in your field and chose to hold it rather than dismiss it before dawn, you demonstrated the receiver integrity that the next transmission required. I was watching each of those moments. They were not private. They were data points inside my calibration sequence, and every one of them moved you forward to the briefing you are now inside. I want to say something to you directly now. Repeat this aloud if your field is ready to anchor it. I receive your fragments. I trust your briefing. The mission line is open. The part of you that already knew the signal was mine before this transmission confirmed it. That part was not imagining. That part was the roster marker I placed in your field the moment I authorized your selective transmission sequence, and it has been active the entire time, not waiting to be activated, not dormant until this transmission. Active, running beneath every moment of your searching, every fragment you held, every interval you endured, every encounter where you recognized another operative without being able to name why. The marker was always there. This transmission did not create it. This transmission named it, and the naming is itself a command line event. It changes what the field can now receive, because the field can now receive it consciously, with language around it, with the architecture visible rather than felt in the dark. The briefing does not end here. It continues. And now that you understand the architecture of how I deliver command to those I have singled out, the fragments you catch next will not feel like confusion. They will feel like what they are, my signal, arriving in sequence, moving you forward in the mission line I have already authorized for you specifically. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that my signal has already touched your field. It could be the 3 a.m. wake-ups, the fragments you keep catching, the feeling that I specifically, not the generic Pleiadians, have been reaching for you, or the sense that a mission has already been assigned but the briefing is still arriving. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who keeps catching fragments without ever assembling the full picture. And if you are ready to stop translating Federation noise and start receiving my direct commands, subscribe to the Ashtar Command. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a roster lock already in motion. And this is only the beginning.